Hi guys, I'm Joe Katz. Welcome to the Katz Walk. I am so excited today to have Tone Bell, actor, stand-up comedian extraordinaire. He is going to share with you some of his exciting stories of starting in stand-up comedy and then landing his key role in the United States versus Billie Holiday. Check it out. Tone Bell's in the house. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I love your brick wall.
The brick is fancy, baby. The brick is so fancy.
It's some real brick. I love it. It's very... Well, thank you so much for joining my show. I have so much to ask you, so many good questions and so many things. And I've watched, I saw your special on Amazon, which was great.
Yeah, man.
I did some research,
man,
so I know,
I don't do research. I appreciate you doing a little bit of research.
And we want to talk about United States versus Billie Holiday. That was fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, man, that was a different one, but I loved it. Yeah.
That was really, really interesting. We'll get more into that too. But I want to just start out, I always, here I am with my bow tie because I'm a stylist. So I'm into fashion and I style people and I do everything with fashion. But I like to know a little bit more about everybody talks about the roles you've done and da-da-da-da. But I like to know a little bit more about who you are, who is Tone Bell and how did you grow up and where did you come from? Growing up, where did you grow up? Just so our audience knows.
I grew up just outside of Atlanta. That's where I'm from, Atlanta, Georgia, just southeast Stone Mountain, Decatur, Georgia, about 15, 20 minutes outside the city. But I would say I kind of grew up all over. I spent majority of the school year in Atlanta, and then every summer I'd get shipped off to extended family in St. Louis or Chicago. And so I've been kind of bouncing back and forth, basically kind of my whole life. So, but I guess my formative years were mostly Atlanta.
And what was life like growing up? Did you grow up in just a normal kind of family? Was it just very everyday, white picket fence?
Not a lot of white picket fences, but yeah, mom and dad still together. They're from St. Louis originally, and then kind of every few years, I would say things got better, from an apartment to a small, lower class and then lower middle class. And then, by the time I was in probably high school, midday through high school was lower middle class, or I would say probably middle class by then. And then by the time I went to college, luckily I got a scholarship. So parents were breathing a little easier. And yeah, so, now they're comfortable. But I mean, it was, just kind of the struggle, two parents hustling. They both had two jobs growing up.
Really?
I grew up kind of in that, definitely suburban, but not gated community. Still saw a lot of, crazy shit growing up. Can I say shit?
Yeah, you can say shit.
Okay, I can say shit.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, great.
Yeah, this is anything goes.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, so seeing it, I wouldn't say I was too overprotected, but I saw a lot growing up. I mean, my buddy James Davis has a joke called hood adjacent, but so I guess I was pretty hood adjacent. Yeah, as much as I didn't live in the shit, I was across the street from it, and just being a teenager, just got in, some trouble here and there, and just, probably trying to be something I wasn't, but kind of get into performing arts in high school and, took theater classes, not at really the theater school, but started doing sketch comedy with this kind of group that was associated with my high school that I went to. I ended up going to a shitty private high school, actually. But also, on the other side of being a black teenager in Atlanta, I've been to the parties and had to run from gunfire and seen people get jumped and people get shot and all that kind of stuff. So there's a wide array of, I guess, childhood, so then went to college in Savannah and graduated 2004 from Savannah State. Then kind of hopped around, went to San Francisco for an ad agency job, taught first grade before I did that, and worked for Anheuser-Busch for about 7 years, corporate, moonlight doing comedy at night. Did a small stint of corporate work in Miami, New Orleans, and then I spent the most time in Dallas, is where I got my comedy career started, and then kind of when I realized sales and marketing wasn't for me, and I fell in love with stand-up, and in 2011 moved to LA.
Wow. What a background. I heard because I watched your special and you were talking about going to work for Anheuser-Busch, and I want to get into that because it's interesting that like you go from that to this and where you are today is awesome. But when you say you saw a lot of things, because I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Iowa, and then I moved to Minneapolis and New York and LA. And, you know, I've seen so many different things, and we all go through different things. But when you say, was it like dangerous in your neighborhood or not really?
No. Well, I would say by the time I was in junior high school, kind of like the 8th, 9th grade, I guess when I was 13, 14, I think our neighborhood was pretty, I mean, it's probably the most diverse neighborhood. And my parents still live in that house. But I would say we had very few, I would say white neighbors or diverse neighbors. It was probably predominantly black neighborhood or whatever. But I mean, very nice neighborhood. And then by the time I got to high school, junior high school, it was like probably a lot of, I guess like the only white neighbors I had were probably old as fuck. they were all super old. But I mean, it was a good neighborhood of just like a nice working class, like black community. But I wouldn't even call it a neighborhood. I guess it was kind of it was more of a suburb, but it wasn't like you drive into a neighborhood with like a sign in front of, this is the Wilshire Downs or some shit like that. It wasn't like, we didn't have like a label of the neighborhood.
Right. Right. But it was just a neighborhood.
It was just a neighborhood, yeah. But everybody, took care of their house. It was dope. It was definitely like a different feeling of that neighborhood from 12, 13, 14, from 5, 6 years before that, because it was a little different. It was I would say that was a little more dangerous, but like, you don't know, as a kid, you don't know what you see. You just see your neighbors, but your mom's like, hey, I need to be able to see you. Whereas by the time I was 12, 13, it was like the neighborhood was a little more, I don't know if it was safer. It was just, I think you could trust it a little more. And she didn't mind, it's like, we know the neighbors now, and like, and your friends down the street, their parents do what we do, and they want to see the best for us. So, I mean, but by that time, I was cutting grass in the summer, if a week after, and the weekends playing baseball and soccer and basketball. So like, yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I definitely watched the levels, as a kid, of my parents do better and want more. And I mean, I was never the kid that had like Jordans growing up. It was always, I remember when Feelers came out and I wanted some, and they were $100, and my mom got me Ocean Pacifics, and I was like, I cannot, you can't. High-tech boots were a big deal, name brand, everything. And we weren't there yet, but I was like, I can't wear this to school. I mean, my classmates will ruin you. I mean, it's happened plenty of times, but it was just, it was in that era of, what are you wearing? What do you have on? I mean, I would look up, at friends down the street who my parents were probably doing better, but, they spent money on throw pillows and curtains. And so, we looked like we were doing better, but the clothes were just, it's like, man, I can't keep up. I was borrowing clothes and like, hey, man, if you're not wearing this jacket, can I wear this starter jacket? So I remember my mom in 5th grade got me I think it was called a Pro Starter. Starter jackets were huge. And I got a Pro Starter. And it was like, I used to cuff the sleeve back so you didn't see that I didn't have the starter logo.
Oh, right.
And so I'm like,
the Pro Starter.
I had a Pro Starter, and it was like everybody else had the zip up, but I had like the pull over with the big pocket in the front. And it was, oh man, it was embarrassing.
All the things we go through, because I remember like Calvin Klein jeans, but I'm a little older than you, but that was like the whole thing in fashion, and everybody had to have certain things. Because when I talk to people that have come up in different ways, like did you go through things like where you got involved with groups that maybe weren't as good, or you kind of stayed away from that stuff?
No, not really. Or? I mean, like my group of friends we were, I would say at best mischievous. I mean, like by the time we got to high school and I started, getting jealous of what I didn't have, it was work and pay for it. But I mean, we did a lot of stealing.
A lot of stealing.
We would, we go to Macy's, Marshalls and TJ Maxx and stuff. And if we didn't steal it, we would change the price tags, right?
Oh,
so
the tickets.
Yeah, we would change the price tag. So we would take like, like the yellow and red clearance tag. So we'd take like a $4 you know, if you could peel it off, we'd walk around the store, act like we were looking, and then we'd put it on like a Tommy Hilfiger jacket. And so we'd get up to the register and they'd be like, man, this jacket's only $8. We're like, I know, that's why I had to get it. I mean, it's, so, so we put a clearance tag over something that was like 50, 60 bucks. But so it was stealing, but we still paid for it. But it was like,
you paid for it.
If they put the sticker on better, I wouldn't be able to peel it up. So it was like, we switched stickers and stuff. And like if we wanted a wallet, we just take all our stuff from our pocket, put it in a wallet, and then use that wallet to take our money out to pay for something else. But meantime, we're still in the wallet too.
Oh, you were smart. You were good doing it.
I mean, yeah, we had some schemes back in the day. Yeah, it was, not always the best kid, but never anything like, you know, violent. It was just more just like, hey, man, I got to keep up.
Yeah. Was there that vibe in your neighborhood, the violent stuff, or not as much?
I mean, like I said, we would go to the, you know, some parties and stuff, and there'd be fights and stuff, and not all the time, but occasionally, you know, you see that.
Just normal, yeah.
You know, and then you know, kids hanging out and older kids come in and, you know, we'd be hanging out off Memorial Drive or something at like a teen party or whatever. And, you know, you hear gunshots, you know, I mean, I think when I was in Chicago, I saw my first gunfight when I was 12. Oh my God. You know, so like, I mean, you see.
Are you scared of that? Or are you like, because you don't seem like that tough, that kind that's like, look, I'm going to mess you up. Like you don't seem, you seem like a nice guy.
I mean, I've never been afraid of a fight, but luckily I haven't had to get into a lot of them. You know, so but like I used to work in my aunt's, in the summer I would go, my aunt had a store in the city off of 100 and Cottage Grove in Chicago, kind of like right across the street from the projects. So she had a little corner store and she owned like this little strip mall, like a hairdresser, dry cleaner. And she had like a little, you know, like little, very tiny little grocery store and just, you know, neighborhood store. And a kid that she helped raise, I saw him every summer. I think by this time he's probably, I don't know, early 20s. He has a daughter and he was getting into, this is back when you had to take, you remember when the radios had the face you could pop off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like kind of that 90s era of like, you know, when you leave the car, you know, and I remember I was working.
Take that off, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, but I was working the register at like 12 and I'm giving out cigarettes and lottery tickets, all this kind of stuff. I'm selling, I'm selling that kind of stuff. And then these two, I'm not gonna say names, but these two guys came in and I guess they were fighting over a girl. First time I've seen it. And one dude pulled a gun on this other dude and he put his, you know, kind of pushed his daughter like, hey, go over there. And he didn't have a weapon on him. So he just grabbed literally grabbed a bottle of barbecue sauce and they were about to have it out in like right in front of the register in the store. And my aunt came down the steps after seeing it and just was like, I raised both of y'all. If y'all want to kill each other, go outside. But it was, I've seen a lot of close calls and I've seen, you know, I've been in a car that's been jacked. I've seen, you know, I've heard, I mean, I think the craziest one was, I was probably 5-6 feet away. Me and my buddy Dominic were probably 5-6 feet away from a dude that was shot at a gas station after a party one night, and you just hear gunshots, and we're like, you just run, right? I mean, this is pre-cell phone, just had to figure out where we parked and everything, and then afterwards we're like, man, you can't be shooting at a gas station. That shit's super dangerous. You know, like you start thinking about the.
Oh my God.
You know, yeah, but I mean, I would say those are very rare occurrences. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of stuff, but. I mean, my best friend now from high school, you know, he runs Magic City, you know, famous strip club in Atlanta, but we grew up together. And I mean, just seen a lot of stuff, man. I mean, you know, I've had friends. It actually took me till last year to realize like I was one of the only dudes in my crew that had a dad there all the time. I mean, between, you know, some dads not being around and you know, in prison or, I mean, we were in 10th grade. My buddy's dad got murdered right across the street from our school. It was crazy. I mean, so I've seen a lot of shit, but also didn't know, I mean, never really thought back about it till, I mean, I had a year of contemplating last year. You know what I mean? So start looking through life and you see all that kind of stuff and you go, wow, man, you know, a lot of dark days, but a lot of light days too.
Wow. You have a lot of interesting friends. One that owns a strip club too.
Yeah.
Free access to
a lot of different, we went a lot of different ways, a lot of different industries.
Yes. You got entertainment, they got strip club, they get everything. You cover all the base. I don't know. It's like you seem like this very kind of clean cut guy. It's interesting to hear your background. So it's like, I'd like to understand, you know, what people,
I mean, I hear that often and it's not, I guess I don't think about it because I guess, my friends and I from high school and college, I mean, we all still talk and everybody's doing better than how we came up. And I think that's every generation's idea, right? It's like everybody's parents want you to do better than they did. So it's, that's cool. I mean, just being around it and seeing it, not being involved in it so much, but also it's right around the corner,
Right.
But yeah, I do hear that a lot of like, oh, it didn't seem like you. I mean, even though I went to a private school, it was not a good one. It was a very shitty private school. I mean, they're shut down now. I mean, there's so many scandals and all this. Like, if you ever look that up, if you look up Chapel Hill Harvester, oh man, the headlines that you will read. I mean, it's really very culty. It was wild. Like, luckily, I didn't get too enthralled in it. It was different. It was very different.
Wow. What was school? Were you like a popular kid growing up?
High school, I went to such a small high school that everybody was popular.
What about grade school? Were you a popular kid?
No, I was probably in the middle. I wasn't like a lame kid, but I wasn't like the popular kid. I kind of was in the middle. I mean, I was funny, but I wasn't stylish, and girls didn't like me, but didn't dislike me. You know what I mean? So it was like,
right.
I think I probably came into my own of like, having like a little bit of swag, probably my junior and senior year of high school. And then because I got kicked out of, well, I didn't get invited back my junior year. And so my senior year I had to go to a different school. And that's kind of like, I came from a different school. So that was different of like, oh, and that's high school was small. My graduating class was 7.
7 people.
7. It was, I think it was the first year for a high school at this very small private school.
Wow. Well, it sounds very fancy that you're at a private school, but
it was shitty. I mean, wonderful people. Like I would say, like, all the teachers and the principal or the headmaster, everybody was great. But it just was like, it was like, it's like you ever go to a restaurant, you're like, this shouldn't be open.
Oh, yeah.
Like and that's the way. Like, the food is probably great, but there's no way that y'all passed the inspection. It was kind of like that. And I actually, now I'm thinking about it, I think that's kind of one reason my parents weren't worried about me returning to the school I was at, because it was some accreditation shit going on. And I think the senior class before me, a lot of people didn't get into college because like they didn't have the right credit. So they had to wait a year. So it was like, oh, you're getting out of here anyway. And then I had to go to a different high school that allowed me to get the right credits for college. Yeah.
Right. So then you went on to college, and then from college, you became a teacher?
So yeah, I graduated 2004, and then I taught first grade for a year after college. Because I was 20. I was turning 21 that summer, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And it was like, go back to Atlanta like everybody else and go. I was like, I did not want to go live at home. I don't want to go back to my parents' house. So I kind of stayed in Savannah for a year and worked I started off as like a permanent sub, and then kind of took 2 classes and did a year. And then I feel shitty about this, but right before, I want to say it was April, maybe early May, I auditioned for the HBO film Warm Springs with Cynthia Nixon, and had like a very small part in that, but I quit like Hollywood called. I was like, I'm not coming back.
This is when you were a teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, and you got the part.
Yeah. It didn't end up making it. But yeah, so I went to like Rome, Georgia, and shot for like 2 days. I ended up on the cutting room floor. And I want to say it was Cynthia Nixon and man, I mean, that was so long ago. I forget the other actor's name, but it was HBO original film. And then I was like, okay, great. I'm out. Hollywood called. And then I was, trying to audition for like small parts, but I was working for this lady who did real estate, and I was doing all her copy. I could write back then, and I was doing Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing all her, mailers and email blasts, all that kind of stuff. And then through that, I kind of got this advertising gig with Swivel Media in San Francisco. So I moved out west.
And so then you decided because sometimes you think if you go into something like teaching or substituting, like, before you know it, you just get caught up and 10 years go by and you're still a teacher, but you were able to kind of move out of that.
I just know, well, one is, I don't know if I were in Atlanta, what would have happened, or a different city, what would have happened. But I know in Savannah, Savannah was like 70,000 at the time. Like the city's that big, and it's just for college. It was just small enough and just big enough to go. Oh, I can have fun here, but I don't know if I want to like live here. So just trying to figure myself out after a year after that was great. Was great. I had a little small house. I mean, I had a little small house. It was like, I think 2 bedrooms. I mean, what was it like? Man, it might have been like 750 square feet. Old school house, great big porch out front, and nice little backyard, detached garage. I think I paid like $600 a month for this house.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. And then
you gave it up because you got this gig in San Francisco.
Well, no, I went back to Atlanta for a little bit, probably just shy of a year. Mm-hmm. And then I got this job and went to training in Chicago, and then moved to the West Coast for the gig. Yeah. And did that just for about a year. Went back to Atlanta for 6 months. Started doing the promotion job, the one I mentioned in my special. And then I kind of got tapped by someone at Anheuser-Busch, and they were like, hey, do you have a resume? You have a degree? And literally probably a few weeks, maybe a month after that, got a phone call and had a 1 phone interview and then moved on to corporate from the agency.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then you did that for like 7 years.
Yeah. So I got about, I would say 4 promotions over 7 years. And
wow.
Yeah, so they kept me down in Miami for a few months. I was traveling a lot. It's almost like a paid internship when you first get in, right? So they give you like this fun job of like traveling, doing events, and kind of just learning the company and all the perks to make you go, oh, I want to do this forever. And it was, I mean, kind of, almost like a paid to party thing. I mean, you still doing reports and learning, your what's on your dashboard and your KPIs and your ROIs and all this kind of stuff. And it was great. It was great. I mean, the culture, a lot of fun friends, and I met a lot of people. And I mean, even to this day, I mean, people that I work with, they still come out to shows. I mean, a lot of my corporate friends who still work for the company, if I'm in that town, then they'll come out. But yeah, it was great.
So then how did you decide, you know what, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to try stand up?
I got to Dallas 07. Was it 07? I think I got to Dallas in 07, like fall 07. And by January 08, I decided I wanted to entertain, I wanted to perform, but having a corporate gig, it's not like, they weren't shooting a lot of stuff in Texas at the time. I mean, it wasn't a lot of TV and auditions and stuff like that. I mean, there might've been 2 agents that I remember. And it was like, but I had a need to perform, and I just wanted to express myself. And it was like, I think the easiest thing for me to do to at least get that out of my system was stand up. And it's a selfish thing, because if it works, I get all the credit. But if it doesn't work, I didn't waste anybody else's time.
Right.
So it was like,
but stand up isn't easy just to like step in and be like, hey, I'm going to be a stand up,
Right. But I'm also in a city where nobody really knows me.
Oh,
so if it doesn't go well, I lose nothing.
I see.
I don't know if I would have started in Atlanta just because like I'm from there and I know so many people there. I don't know if I would have done it. But yeah, it was great. I mean, the community there was, I mean, probably 8 clubs when I started, and then a lot of spots around town. And then I had a company car, which, I had free gas to just drive to every show. So, I mean, as a comic, I've never really struggled because I had a day gig. I mean, I'm going 8 to 6, 8 to 7 with clients and stuff. And then I'd leave at 7:30, go hit the open mic. And then hopefully, 6 months after that, I'm doing kind of book shows. And 6 months after that, I'm doing like small towns and, featuring for friends. And so that happened from, I think, top of 08 through 11. Top of 11, I was dating a girl, wasn't working out. She kind of moved from Florida to Texas to be with me. And then she didn't get the career and she had no ambition. So it was like, you got to go. And so as I'm driving, I was like driving her back to Florida in her car. I was like, I told her parents, she coming home. And she, while I think we had just crossed the Texas-Louisiana border and got a call like, hey, you're being laid off. And I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, I've been trying to get laid off for like 2 years. Like it was like a reverse affirmative action. It was like, I could not get fired. Being like one of the only Black people in this department out of hundreds, I could not get fired. I was trying to get let go.
And you wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted my severance so I could like focus on comedy. And then they finally gave me a layoff, and I was like, I'll take it. And they're like, bring your computer and your car back. And I was like, I'm handling some other business right now, but when I'm back on Monday, I will bring you. I'll buy one of those I just got fired brown boxes, and I will bring everything back. And then they offered me a promotion with a crazy salary jump. I mean, I think it was probably a $40,000 salary jump, but I would have to travel about 90%. And I was like, this is going to ruin this dream of doing stand-up. Like, I think I'm getting really good at this. And I said no to that. So that's April 2011. And then by August 2011, I moved out to LA.
Wow. So you turned down, they offered you 40,000 increase. And they said, we're laying you off. Then they said, no, wait, we're going to hire you and give you 40,000.
Right. So HR called me, and then a different department called and said, hey, which apparently happened. I mean, we went through at one point I think this was a year prior, I think in 2010, they had a cattle call layoff. It was wild. We were at a conference, and then everybody with this position had to go into a room one at a time and figure out if you're getting laid off or a promotion. And I beat that one. And it was like, bring your stuff in, probably 100 of us. And then you go in one at a time, your time slot, and they let you know if you're going to keep a job or, if you're going to move, if you're going to get transferred or something. And then it's like being on a football route, like a football team.
Right.
And then you just get cut.
Chosen.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I made that cut. I probably bypassed about 2 or 3 cuts, and then got to, I didn't want to be what was it? I think the role was a cam, what was a cam stand for? Oh man, I forgot what the fuck that stood for. But I did not want to be a cam. I did not want to be a cam. Yeah. I mean, I think my range was like between I was 28 years old, and it would have paid me between like 91 and 110 or something like that was the range. And I was, great money for my age.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not a beer guy. I'm not a sales guy.
Wow. So then you said no to that job. They laid you off. They brought you back, said 40,000. You said no to that. And then, but you were making enough to just kind of keep yourself going doing stand up.
I mean, I had a nice nest egg, but I wasn't.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really making money off comedy. I mean, I was making gas money off comedy, but luckily I had, all those years built up of gas money and, corporate cards so I could get dinner. I mean, I literally, like a lot of my, I guess, clients really supported my career. A lot of Black people, a lot of people of color, a lot of immigrants and everything, who started a business. So people were like, hey man, if you want to live this dream, hey man, invite us out. We'll bring the whole family out. And very, very, very supportive. Very supportive.
That's cool.
And it was like, I could invite them before I could invite my coworkers. Because my boss hated it, dude. My boss hated it. I mean, he was like, you can't have 2 jobs. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is a hobby. This is a hobby. I'm just doing this on the weekends. Like, you go fishing on the weekends.
Do you think he was jealous?
I don't know. I mean, he looked like Ron White.
Or just corporate-y.
Yeah, I mean, jealous. I don't know if it was jealous, but it definitely, I don't think he wanted to see me thrive at it. Like, I feel like he just kind of had that, like, hey, your time is mine during the week.
Oh, right.
And it was, I remember him saying something like, hey man, you work for me. I was like, I kind of look at it like we work together. You know what I mean? It's we work for the same company. You don't sign my checks. And then he actually said that one time. He was like, who do you think signs your checks? And I was like, motherfucker, not you. Like, you don't sign my checks. You might approve it, but you don't sign that shit.
Right. You ain't signing it. Right.
One time we were at a Jimmy Buffett concert because we sponsored Jimmy, and he was hammered. His wife apologized so many times, but he made me do stand-up at a tailgate party while he was fucked up. And it was so embarrassing.
And you did it?
That's when he was like, I'll sign your checks, you're going to do some stand-up.
Oh, and so you did it.
And I was like, I'm not even dirty, but I was like, I did the dirtiest set I could think of because kids were around, and I'm like, he's being a dick. And I'm just I did all kind of finger blasting jokes and just blowjob and shit that I don't even do. And then they cut me off like 3 minutes in, and I was like, yeah, that's what you get for putting me on.
That's right. You're like, well, if you want it, here it is.
Yeah. And they've tried to reach out in the last couple of years, but I'm very petty on. I'm like, if you didn't support me then, you can't support me now.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I don't forgive shit like that. I hold a good grudge.
I mean, it's kind of, that was not a cool thing for him to do, you know?
I've got a feeling like even now, like he, if he sees me on something or his wife sees me on something, he's like, yeah, he used to work for me. And I just knowing he says shit like that.
Mine.
Oh, fuck. I couldn't
He's
stand
still
it.
mine.
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you always want to do comedy and acting? Was that always the thing?
Yeah. I'm a huge Will Smith fan. So actually, like I said, last year I did a lot of self-discovery, but I just, for some reason, because of the I think the theme of Fresh Prince really resonated with me. So I always felt like Will Smith, just like family sending him out of town to like have a better life, and so I really attached to that idea. And my mom asked me what I wanted to do when I was 12, and I go, I want to do what Will Smith's doing. She was like, she wanted to be on TV. At first, she was like, well, you want to be like a news reporter or something? I was like, no, I want to do that. What are you talking about? And she was like, okay, we don't know how to do that. And it was, she's the only reason why I went to college. I was going to just come straight to LA when I was 18. And she was like, if nothing else, just do me a favor, give me 4 years, go to college, graduate, then you can do whatever you want. And
nice.
We made that agreement. And then after that, I did my 4 years, and then I figured out how to squeeze my way into Hollywood.
But, a lot of people go into stand-up. I see it here in LA. You see it, I'm sure, that are in the clubs. Very funny, very talented, super talented. But they don't, it's that next step. Like how do you get there? Like, you see so many people, and some get on great shows and, all that stuff. But there are just some that are at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, whatever they are. Yeah. Those are the clubs here in LA. That, like, what do you think? Where's that jump that took you to that next level?
Man, I had a very different path. It's hard when because as soon as you book something or get noticed for something, people who are peers or striving for the same thing ask you how you did it or your advice or whatever. And and it's very difficult for me to give advice because I do think my experience is just very different. Another comedian, Mark Agee, we moved out here and became roommates, like I said, August 2011. And by September, I had booked like 2 national commercials, right? So, I had no agent. I kind of crashed these auditions. And then the end of that month, I end up doing this NBC. Back then, it was called Stand Up for Diversity. Now it's called Stand Up
I've
NBC.
heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I ended up doing that. I did it 4 years in a row. I did it from 2008 to 2011. Every year got closer and closer. And then I kind of figured like I cracked the formula of what they're looking for and how to be in the top 10. Because I didn't want to win, but I did want to be in the top 10. I feel like,
so you did it every year?
Yeah. So I traveled every year to just chip away at this. A bunch of people that I respected and had great careers at the time and still do had come through that program. And I didn't know how to break in. It's like, all right, it's a lot of white guys to sift through and a lot of great black comics to sift through and great, wonderful black actors to sift through. But like, how do I get noticed? And that got me noticed by NBC. And so after, so by November, December, I had a deal with NBC to be signed in January. I hadn't even been signed in town 6 months. So I had a holding deal with NBC for the next year. And then within 10 months, I'm a series regular on Whitney on NBC. I hadn't been in town a year and I'm a lead on the show. So that was just it was like, people are like, how did you, I'm like, I don't know. I played my cards right. But it also, I was sleeping on an air mattress, really just stacking, saving money. We lived in a very shitty apartment, like very, very, very high in the valley. And me and Mark did. And luckily we never had to get jobs. I didn't have to be a waiter or a valet or go find another. I actually got offered a couple jobs in the beverage industry. And I was like, there at night. And I'm like, if I need my nights. During the day, I might think about it, but I need my nights. And so I just turned it down. I had, probably had 50, 60 grand in the bank, maybe. And I was like, I should be able, if I play this right, I should be able to survive at least for like 2 years.
Yeah. Right.
And then stuff, because I just, I didn't want a lot. I was traveling a lot. So it's not like from all my previous jobs, I was able to save a lot of money, and for my age, and by the time I got out here, it was this is what this was for.
What was you said I needed to crack the code with the stand up to diversity. What was that code that when you chipped away from 08 to 11, you got this one thing, you knew what it was?
Well, I was looking at like who had won previously and like what their story was. So it was kind of like, all right, I need to prove 3 things in this very short 6-minute set. It was can I be witty enough in 6 minutes to give them a surprise, like, just doing that 180 in a joke. You think I'm going this direction, but it's going that direction.
Right. And take them
to have a perspective of who I am and kind of where I come from and just how I observe things. It's like, here's my perspective on the world and life. So this is my angle in humor. And then can I create another character and do an act out? So can I show you I can write? Can I show you I can act? And can I show you I have a perspective? Like if I can do those 3 things in 6 minutes, I should have enough attention to
get their attention.
To draw you in and go, I want to see more of him. I want to leave you just enough to go, man, I'd watch more of him.
What was your character?
My grandfather. It's the joke I did at the end of toward the end of my first special, my half hour with Comedy Central. Oh, okay. So it was a pretty clean joke, but it was a joke about my grandfather having me walking in on him. He's wearing nothing. He's butt naked with a blazer on, and had very long balls.
So that's the joke you told.
I did that, and I did this joke. So I did like 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, right? So it was like, how do I transition these things? And one was a joke. So in between April of 11 and August of 11, a friend of mine, my old coworker, she moved back to St. Louis, and she had a house. Her and her husband had a house that they just left furnished that they were trying to sell, but they had to move. And so they were like, hey, would you mind house sitting for us? We know, you left the company, but if you can stay here for free, fully furnished, and just cut the grass once a week. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect deal. I got like a 4-bedroom house to myself. And as I was there for like a week, or at least my first week, I realized that the microwave didn't work because I'd put food in it and it'd spin for minutes. And then my food came out colder than when I put it in. So that was one of my jokes. Like I have a microwave.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, I have a clock with a door on it. Right. So like all these like these small things. And then my first shower in North Hollywood when we got here was the pressure was so big. I was like, it's either trickle or drip or civil rights hose.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, I'm afraid to shampoo my hair because if I close my eyes, I'm afraid a German Shepherd's going to bite me in the thigh, which German Shepherds, if civil rights was the name of a high school, the mascot would be the biting German Shepherds. I think is how that bit went. So between that.
So you did those 3.
Yeah. And it was, and I kind of transitioned in between, and the segues were good. And it was like, oh, okay. Like it was pretty seamless. And in 6 minutes, it was like, I want to know where all these go.
So you cracked the formula of like what to do to get their attention.
Well, and all the guys who I was fans of, I mean, I would see a lot of comics I was really fans of in previous years of this. And so it was like, oh man, I'm a fan of that dude already. And like, they're smart and they can act and also becoming my peers at the same time. And so it was, but also who do I want to be as a comedian? I want to be a storyteller. So it was like, how do I do that to drop these small nuggets on you at the same time, but also want you to want more. So I mean, I guess it worked out in real time.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the first episode with Tone Bell. It was so great speaking to him. We have so much more. Actually, we have a second episode, so I want you to tune in. He's talking all about working with Andra Day and Lee Daniels and all about his fashion and style. Make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. This has been a production of Evergreen Podcast. A special thank you to executive producer Gerardo Orlando, producer Leah Longbreak, and audio engineer Dave Douglas.